Hey, I'm Miguel Aguilar, CEO and founder of Self-Made Training Facility, and I am one of the passionate few. All right, just wrapped up the interview with Omar, by far one of the best interviews I've had thus far. Omar nailed it, asked the proper questions, was able to translate and basically promote the story the way it's supposed to be. Omar, killed it.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of The Passionate Few. Today we get to sit down and hear the incredible true story of Miguel Aguilar. He's the CEO and founder of the Self-Made Training Facility franchise, and we get to hear not only how he built his multi-million-dollar fitness business from scratch, but also some of the early challenges when he didn't have his parents around as a kid, was homeless, lived out of his car, but how he overcame them when he found wrestling and went all in on getting his mindset, his body, and his fitness exactly where he wanted it to be. So I want to encourage you guys to sit back, relax, and enjoy the powerful interview with the CEO and founder of the Self-Made Family Man, Miguel Aguilar. Enjoy.
Thanks for being on the show today, Miguel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, brother. So let's get right into it.
Yeah.
A lot of people have heard about the revolutionary model that you guys have created with these training facilities. It's a new idea in this space, but take us back a little bit to kind of where you grew up and what your roots are like, because before this multi-million-dollar company, it didn't look like this was in your future, right?
No, not even close. It wasn't even in my space.
So talk to us a little bit about where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
I'm from Riverside, California. I was born in 1981, 36 years of age now. So I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood of Riverside, California. Yeah, in between, Casablanca and Orlando, a lot of gang territories and whatnot. Went to Norte Vista High School, but primarily grew up in Riverside, California. Mm-hmm. And I'm technically, my mom abandoned me when I was 12. By the time I was 16, I was homeless. Mm-hmm. And that's where kind of the whole kind of self-made brand started within myself.
So 16, you were homeless.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about the 12, 13, 14 years. I know you got into a lot of like drug activity. Can you talk a little bit about your first experiences and kind of what your upbringing was like?
So my upbringing is very rough. I have a very rough childhood from the age I can remember till I was 12. By the time I was 12, I was abandoned. My mom, she was a crazy woman, looking back now, right. Completely crazy, would leave us with random people, would do and fabricate crazy stuff. So my childhood was a completely mess. Mm-hmm. So by the time I was 12, she ended up reconnecting with my dad because my dad left for about a year. So he disappeared as well. He was kind of tired with her shenanigans. And by the time I was 12, she reconnected with my father, found out where he was staying at. My father already remarried, had his own separate family, and kind of lied to my father and told him, hey, look, I need you to watch the kids for a couple weeks. I'm going to go do a couple things and then come back and get them.
Right.
So we reconnected. My dad, we're in Corona, California. We met at a park. She kind of told us, hey, go play, talk to my dad. We knew they were kind of doing something because, my dad was super pissed off. Mom was yelling at him. Right. And then by then, she calls us back and says, hey, look, you guys are going to stay with your dad for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and get you guys, but I want you guys to visit with your dad. You haven't seen him for about a year. Mm-hmm. So my dad was, okay, take him on. And a week passed, 2 weeks passed, 3 weeks passed, 4 weeks passed. Mom disappeared.
Never came back.
Never came back, dude. And it's one of those unfortunate events. We're 12 and had no idea what the hell was going on.
Have you seen her since?
Funny story, just recently, about 2 months ago, I got a phone call through Facebook.
Yeah.
Someone just blowing up my phone. I pick up, it was one of my relatives in San Diego and said they found my mom.
Wow.
And at first I thought it was a bunch of BS because the only time they've ever called was either for money or something. So
right. And it's 24 years later, so it's like, what's going on here?
Big change, dude.
Right.
And for us, for myself, I didn't believe it. And then she asked me, do you want to talk to her? I was like, okay, cool. Let me see what they're going to put on the phone,
Yeah.
And I haven't heard and talked to my mom since I was 12. So I'm thinking I'm not going to hear what she sounds like or kind of reconnect that aspect of her voice, right? But as a kid, you can't forget that.
Right.
So as soon as she got on the phone, I knew that was my mom.
Wow, man.
And it's bittersweet, it's one of those hard situations, a tough pill to swallow because you don't understand the magnitude that she created with leaving us,
Right.
Imagine at the age of 12, like I have a 10 and 11-year-old daughter, right? I cannot fathom or picture the idea of leaving my kids ever. And also just having like that motherly hug, like that person that makes you feel better, right? Imagine that being completely out of the picture by the time you're 12.
Right.
You know, and my dad remarried, had a stepmom who hated us, like with a passion, because we were left at her home.
Right.
She wasn't planning on keeping us, you know. But, you know, reconnecting with her, it was bittersweet. It was still one of the things I'm still trying to overcome and trying to figure out how to build that relationship again. But yet again, she called because she needed money. So she saw what I'm doing on Facebook, on Instagram. Relatives see what I'm doing on Instagram, and they're always just calling for that specific thing.
Right, yeah.
So it's, that's a tough bridge to cross.
Yeah, for sure, especially thinking back to what it was like growing up. Now, talk to me a little bit about, I know, the first time you tried any kind of drugs, because that became an issue in your childhood.
Oh, big time.
Talk to me about, I know you like smoked a joint with your dad when you were 12 or 14 or
Yep.
something like that. Like,
So-
talk to me a little bit about those times.
So by the time I was 12, the male bonding that I had with my father was
Yeah.
to drink a tall can with him. Like he would invite us on a walk, or we'd go to the beach, or we'd go to the park, we'd go somewhere,
Right.
and he would buy himself a Foster's tall can, and then he would get me a smaller tall can, because the Foster ones are big ones.
Right.
You know, and I would share that with him, and we would bond and talk. And the only time my dad ever told me he loved me was when he was really drunk. You know, so that was the bonding. So I looked
Yeah.
forward to that. I was, you know, a 12-year-old impressionable kid, and it was like I'm a sponge, you know, so I'm absorbing everything. This is the way we get along. So I thought that was completely normal.
Right.
You know, and I thought it was cool. You know, I was drinking with my pops, I'm drinking with my dad.
Right,
and,
right.
That got to the point where that's how we bonded. It wasn't a lot, but it introduced me to that life.
Right.
And then by the time I was 13, I was really overweight as a kid, and always struggled with my weight as a kid. Even though I was super active, I was still struggling with my kid. I loved to eat. And I was really overweight. Plus, my dad, he owned Yum Yum Donuts. There were franchises, so he owned those.
Yeah.
And I was always eating donuts. So donuts, croissants, all that good stuff. So I always struggled with my weight. So by the time I hit 13 or 14 or so, middle school, started hanging out with the bad crowds, gang banging, well, pretending to gang bang, you know, I was 13, dude. And got involved with some bad people. And, you know, one of the things that came up was, you know, if you try this, you're going to lose a lot of weight because it helps people. It doesn't help people. It's basically what it does because you don't eat.
Right.
And I tried meth for the first time when I was 13 or so.
Wow,
You know,
man.
and I remember that night, good thing they only gave me a little bit, but I tried it. I
Yeah.
did it. It hurt like hell.
Yeah.
And I was up for literally a day and a half.
Jeez.
Went to school the next day, still was high as hell.
Right.
And I remember doing push-ups and sit-ups all night because the focus was to lose weight.
Right.
So push-ups and sit-ups all night, push-ups and sit-ups. and this is in a two-bedroom apartment with basically 5 kids, 2 adults, in a 2-bedroom apartment in Riverside. I slept on the couch, my brother slept on the floor. We would alternate, and then her kids and my dad's other kid, they had their own bedroom, you know? So we're always shafted on that aspect.
And then I know your stepmom too. You had a little bit of a rough relationship with her.
Oh, yeah.
What was that like?
She hated us, you know, and it's unfortunate. Looking back, I forgive everything she's ever done.
Right.
But it got to the point where she would hide food in the closet, you know, so we wouldn't eat it. She also it was almost like manipulating, you know, would be nice to you one day and then hate you the next day. It's like,
Right,
it was
yeah.
completely crazy, dude. So definitely not a mother figure whatsoever. And then when my father got incarcerated, because my dad was a heavy alcoholic and drug addict, so that's where I learned it from.
Right.
You know, it's like embedded in me.
So you would see him actually drinking and
100%.
smoking and getting loaded
all
and all
kinds
that
of stuff.
Yeah.
And then one time I remember we come home from school. This was already about 15 or so. My dad would always had hats. He would love wearing hats. And we would take his hats and wear them, you know. And one time we found a little white baggie inside his hat. So most likely it was either meth or coke, but
Right.
at that time I didn't know.
Right.
And but that's what he used to work 24 hours. You know, he owned, we lived in Riverside. He had a franchise location in Norco, California off of Hamner. That Yum Yum Donuts is still there, actually. And he was the owner. He would have bakers that worked for him. He started off as a baker, and then he continued to obviously own his own locations.
Right, work his way up.
But the bakers would call in. Well, guess who has to work? He does. You know, so he worked 2-3 days straight. We would barely see him. And
Wow.
one thing I give my dad credit, even though he fucked up his whole life, was he was, you know, a hard worker. So I did get something good out of my father.
So you got instilled that ethic of
That
hard
ethic
work
of hard
and
work.
dedication and
Yep.
all that, yeah. So, okay, so then let's transition to then you go into high school and you end up homeless to a good degree, right? You end up living out of your car. Talk to me a little bit about how your early teen years, you ended up in that situation.
So it's, and I can go on for days, but I'll make it short and sweet in a certain set. So by the time I was 16, my dad, he committed a crime that sentenced him for 22 years. And the day they sentenced him, we were supposed to go to court and see and say goodbye to him because he pled guilty. We didn't know the extent of the sentence, so we wanted to go say our goodbyes.
How old are you at this time, you said?
16.
16.
Yep. And our stepmom was supposed to pick us up from school to go say hi to him and go see him. And she never came. So that same day, basically got back to the house, and we show up to the house, doors are locked, we're knocking, couldn't get into the house. He finally answers the door, we go inside, and she tells us, hey, look, you guys can't stay here anymore. I can't afford to keep you guys, and you guys just can't stay here. So,
Wow.
And then me, I lose my shit. At 16, I already
course.
knew. I was like, dude, what the fuck are we supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go?
Right.
And she said, figure it out. I remember that completely. Like her face, her features, I can still vividly see it in my head. She said, figure it out. And
Figured out you did.
real quick, you know.
Yeah.
We grabbed our bags, grabbed our stuff, put it in the car, took my brother in there, and you know, let's rewind it a couple years back when we were with our mom. My mom actually, she got sent to prison for about a year and a half when we were still with my dad, and we were in the system, in and out, because they would take us from our dad, put us back with our dad. Like the system was just, we hated it.
Right, yeah.
So I told my brother, hey, we're not going to tell a soul. We're
Right.
going to go ahead and continue to figure out how to do this. Call your friends. I'll call my friends. Let's see where we can stay. And it was a school night. So the people we were calling, we weren't telling them what happened. We would just say, hey, our parents are out of town. We don't want to stay home by ourselves. Can we do something?
Right.
Denied. Finally, you know, we're at the corner at the gas station Fast Strip in Riverside. This is when payphones were still around, you know?
Yeah.
So dropping quarters left and right. And I ended up calling it quits around 10 o'clock at night because we didn't want to call anybody else after that.
Yeah.
Packed into our car, and I was wrestling throughout high school.
Right.
So wrestling, we'd go on these runs, on these trail runs, because we do a lot of conditioning for wrestling. And one of the trail runs was right behind our high school, and that's where I lived. I lived off of Stover in Riverside. And they had these dirt trails. And I remember one specific trail at the end was housing track, and then there was like an alley / mountain. I was like, dude, perfect. So spent the night the first night there. You know, spent the night in my car, still in my same school clothes, grabbed a different t-shirt. Didn't even shower that first night. Went to school pretending like nothing happened. Told my brother to do the same. At that point, we're bouncing from house to house to house. We're, you know, trying to make ends meet. I would shower at the gym. I would get ready at the gym at times, and then, you know, head to school. By 6 months into that, my wrestling coach, assistant wrestling coach, Chris Gillespie, bless his heart and his dad's heart, kind of saved my life in that aspect. He kind of heard what was going on. He was an assistant wrestling coach, so he wasn't hired by the school per se.
Right.
Came to me, asked me what was going on. I denied everything at first, and then he said, hey, you got to tell me or we're going to have to help somehow or another. I was like, as long as you don't tell the school, dude, this is what I'm doing. He was like, well, look, I already talked to my dad. You can stay with us. You can sleep on the floor until you get on your feet.
Yeah.
Well, he ended up working at a home grocer in Fullerton. It was like one of the big warehouses where they would deliver people's groceries.
Right, deliver groceries and whatnot.
And whatnot. So I would be the order puller.
Yeah.
Wasn't 18 yet, so I don't know how he pulled that off, but
Right.
he ended up giving me a job working graveyard. So working graveyard, junior year in high school, towards the end, going into my senior year, I was working graveyard from midnight till 10 in the morning. I luckily, because I hated being home, I went to summer school every year
Right.
prior. And so I had all electives and 3 major courses, or 3 classes to attend my junior year, and then 4 courses my senior year.
And you were working midnight to the morning
Till morning.
and then go to school.
Go straight to school.
So when were you sleeping, or were you sleeping even at all?
No, I would sleep after wrestling practice. So
Yeah.
I would literally sleep 4 hours a day, and we would work 10-hour shifts. So I worked 40 hours in 4 days.
Yeah.
And then so I would catch up my sleep, and you can actually see I have pictures where I went from, you know, tan to completely white because I saw no sun. You know, I was
Right.
completely white, and I had the bleached hair. I was a little skater kid by then. You know, I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
got away from the gang banging scene just because it was only getting me in trouble. So I figured I'd go do this. You know,
Right,
go wrestle
yeah.
instead.
It was a productive habit. at least.
100%.
Yeah.
So I worked graveyard and did that for both junior and senior years, and I barely graduated high school, you know. And if it wasn't for my English teacher, I wouldn't have graduated high school. And the reason for that is I was late to her class every fourth period because I was working. So I would show up late. She didn't know what was going on. And
And of
finally,
course, you don't want to share it because you don't want to get yourself in trouble and get back into the system.
Yeah,
and
I
all
don't want to
that,
go back in the system. And I didn't want to where I was so close to graduating. She pulled me aside prior and said, hey, you're not going to graduate because you're failing.
Right.
You're late to my class every day, yada, yada. I finally, broke down to her and said, hey, you got to promise me not to tell the school, but you got to help me out here. And she ended up not promising me that she was going to tell the school, but she did. I ended up telling her, and she ended up breaking down herself and couldn't believe it. Showed her proof that my dad's locked up. Ended up getting set up to where, hey, if you do this book report, I'll give you a D, you'll pass your class, and we can move on.
I love this story. Yeah, you were telling me.
Yeah, the story is nuts, dude. And
what did she ask you to do, right? She gave you a little bit of context for how to do the assignment. Talk a little bit about that.
She set it up pretty proper, man. She said, who do you look up to? Who do you admire? Who do you want to be like? And at this point, I follow athletes.
Right.
And if you know Bo Jackson, Bo knows everything, right? He's a great athlete in every aspect. Killed it in football, killed it in baseball. He did everything.
Right.
And so I told her I was like Bo Jackson. It was like, why? I was like, I want you to write a book report on Bo Jackson. And I did, and I have pictures of that book report. I still kept that book report because I knew it would mean something down the road.
Wow.
Why
did you like Bo Jackson? What was it about him? Because it seems like at that stage in your life, you didn't have mentors, you didn't have mom, you didn't have pops.
No.
So what was it that Bo was for you at that age?
Everything, man. Yeah, it was like anything he put his mind to, he accomplished and was excellent at it. He perfected the game of football. He perfected his position. He perfected baseball. He did amazing things when they told him he couldn't. They told him he was going to suck at baseball. He was like, pick one or the other, but he ended up doing both and killing it.
Yeah.
And I admire that of him.
Which is interesting because now you got your hats in so many different places, but you guys are still doing phenomenally well.
Yeah.
Because, right, Self-Made's not only a training facility, but you've got clothing and trainers and all sorts of digital programs and stuff like that. So is there a little bit of that seed that you then kind of use later?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
I've learned very young in my entrepreneurship career that you have to diversify yourself, but you don't jump into a bunch of things that you just don't know.
Right.
You kind of figure them out. Some of them are going to blossom pretty well, and some of them are going to die out. The ones that die out, obviously you move on. But ideally, is if you can diversify yourself as an entrepreneur, why not?
Right.
But yet attack everything with the same passion and the same drive, so it can be successful.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then Bo became your sort of your muse in a sense, right? Like, okay, I want to be like that. But talk to me a little bit about your pops going to prison for like 22 years, right?
22 years, man.
How does that feel the day you find out and that process? I mean, is it kind of like surreal? It doesn't really hit you? I mean, it's not easy for anybody, much less a 16-year-old. Well, what was that like?
Talk about survival mode. Like literally survival mode, dude. Like your back's backed against the corner. What do you do, right? And like I was telling you earlier, I'm a wrestler.
Yeah.
I take pride in that. That mentality, that mindset, that drive that wrestlers have.
Right.
Thank God for that, because it gave me an option. For every problem, there's a solution. I've told this before, where in wrestling you have moves and counter moves. And I remember one time a wrestling coach sat me down when I told him I was stuck in a move. I couldn't get out. He was like, pulled me aside. He was like, "You're never stuck. This is the counter move for it." And same thing with life. For every problem, there's solution.
And business.
In business, everything. So that's always been embedded with me. And for me, I don't give up. That's when that happened. I was like, okay, shit, I have no mom. I have now no dad. My relatives don't give a shit about us. They don't care, dude. Like no one, everybody. My mom burned so many bridges that relationships were all scarred, right? So for me, I was like, and
her issue was just drugs and
drugs,
whatnot.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Psychological, all kinds of stuff. She one time, I was about 9. We lived in Imperial Beach at that time, and she fabricated a story to my family members. She basically, prior to them coming over to the house, she sat me down and said, "Hey, look it." And I love boogie boarding, and I would get this rash on my chest because I had a cheap boogie board and I didn't have a rash guard, right?
Right.
So I always complained about it. She never wanted to buy it for me. And then she sat me down and said, "Hey, you want that boogie board? You want that rash guard? I need you to do me a big favor. I need you to sleep in the closet in the sleeping bag that I have set up, and then don't come out no matter what, and I'll take care of you, tomorrow. We'll go shopping for that.
Wow.
And I'm like 9, 10 years old. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude.
Okay, sounds
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
perfect.
deal.
I was like camping, right? And she was like, but you cannot come out. I was like, all right, cool. So she sets me to bed like around 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I'm already asleep, and then I hear the doorbell, and I hear it multiple times, and then finally, like, I hear people hysterically crying, my brother crying, my mom crying, and saying Miguelito, Miguelito. That's my nickname with her, is like Miguelito. And she fabricated a story that I got hit by a car, and she needed money for the funeral. She was that type of person. And
wow.
And I remember that vividly, and it's unfortunate. Actually, I remember it vividly now because my brother brought it up not too long ago.
Right.
I blocked out a lot of stuff in my past,
sure, yeah.
right? But I know that happened, and my brother, he played into it because my mom also conned him as well. And my brother's only 11 months apart. He's only 11 months younger than me.
Yeah.
So having that background and that kind of played into all that. It really led me in a really dark path as a kid.
Right.
So when my dad got locked up, it's yet again, sink or swim. What are you going to do?
So fending for yourself with like having to earn your own keep and working the graveyard shift. Yeah. Like, is that what like kept you afloat? Because you were literally homeless in high school, right?
Yep, homeless in high school. But by the time my senior year came up, I was able to get my own apartment. Mm-hmm. I had my own apartment, which I showed you pictures earlier.
Right,
that was the party spot. And so I had my own apartment. I was making, at that point, $12 an hour. Yep. So I started off at 11, then I ended up working in the freezer department, which I had this big old Eskimo suit, my scanner, my little scanner, and I would have my totes and fill it up and set it up for an extra $1 an hour. So I sacrificed being frozen.
Stoked. You were like,
dude,
man.
I was making bank at that age,
Yeah.
But prior to that, I had every little hustle, from selling drugs to burning CDs with everybody's favorite music. So I've hustled since I was a kid.
Did you get a little bit of that from your dad? Because it seems like he was an entrepreneur too, right?
My dad was an immigrant from Guatemala. Mm-hmm. Okay, he came to the country, he got his green card, and he learned English. He was a go-getter, but unfortunately, I believe my mom jaded a lot of my dad. Created that man that he became. He wasn't strong-willed in that aspect.
Right.
Heavy alcoholic, always drank since I was a kid that I can remember. Everything associated with drinking.
Right.
But yes, I got that from my father. So at least I got something out of it.
Right. And I think too, wrestling became an anchor for you to teach you work ethic, right? It became a physical
100%.
example that you then translated to the rest of your life. How do you think that wrestling helped you, and what do you think your life would have been like if you didn't have that singular, at least, anchor?
I wouldn't be where I'm at today. We wouldn't be having this conversation. It's point and simple, dude.
It's really interesting because a lot of people we interview, especially in the fitness space, and even if they're not in the fitness space, in high levels of business, will tell you, like, you're a business athlete. Like, if you don't have any kind of physical routine or some exertion, there's a cap to what you have available in business or in life or whatever. Can you speak a little bit about that, the importance of fitness?
It's the truth, and I was telling you earlier, it's like, imagine every high-profiled athlete or a person that takes care of their body, eats well, is disciplined to get up and do things for their physical appearance, right? Imagine taking those basic fundamentals and applying them to business. What do you think is going to happen? You eat right, you want abs, you're going to get abs, right?
Right.
You apply those same things to business and strategically place yourself, invest in things like that. Things what's going to happen. Your pocketbook gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So I took that from a very young age into my real estate career. Because after I graduated high school, I was either joining the Army or going to get a scholarship. Didn't get my scholarship because I fractured my ankle in my senior year. Won double overtime, still didn't give up. Won in my first meet, my state meet, and that was it. I had to call it, dude. Press Enterprise article, the whole nine.
What do I do next, right? Because wrestling was all you knew. It was your only happiness or your only thing that you're good at.
Exactly. And it was either that or going to work. So either scholarship, Army, or going to work.
Right.
Couldn't do the Army because I couldn't have people demand things from me like that. I'm a control freak. You can't tell me what to do.
Right.
To a certain extent. I'm a student, I'm learning, but you can't command me to do something. It's just not in my thing, you know? But you can train me to do stuff and I'm gonna do it properly. So I got into commercial plumbing. Commercial plumbing was construction.
You remember how much you were making at that time as a commercial plumber?
Oh, I was making $16 an hour.
Nice.
That was,
so you're moving up in the world.
Oh yeah, I was making money, dude. But I was blowing it on drugs and alcohol. Every weekend, we would fill up my fridge with beer and party like crazy.
So you could like do drugs, drink, all that, and still be functional.
I was a functioning drug addict, alcoholic since I was the age of 16, dude.
Oh man, and did that make it hard to quit? Because you're like, man, why should I quit? I'm doing great. I'm making moves. I mean,
yet again, the fight, sink or swim.
Right.
I knew one day I was either going to end up in prison, kill myself, or really hurt somebody else. And I wasn't willing to do that.
Was there ever times where you got in depression or suicidal mode or anything like that?
There's been, and I haven't told this very often, my wife knows this, but I've had 3 occasions where I felt suicidal. When my mom left, when my dad got incarcerated, and then after a 4-day binge. And after that 4-day binge, I knew that was it. And this was 3 years ago. I celebrated 3 years sobriety yesterday.
Wow, man. Congratulations
Thank
on
you,
that, brother.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
So it's unfortunate, but I knew waking up, I have a beautiful family, I have a beautiful wife, I have an amazing career, and then I also have, this training facility to thank for that, for the sobriety aspect of it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Beautiful place, my man.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And through the training facility, it's helped me become sober. Why? Because I can't be a hypocrite. I can't promote health and fitness and a healthy lifestyle and a wealthy lifestyle if I'm over there still partying on the weekends and doing my thing.
Right, you got to lead by example.
100%.
That makes sense. So tell me, I know that you were plumbing, making $16 an hour, and then what was the point where you said, man, I really want to do things bigger? You know, what was the seed that was planted? Because then you got into real estate.
Yep.
So talk to me a little bit about how that transition happened, what inspired you to get into real estate. Take us back.
So I barely graduated high school, right? So no college education. And my thing was, okay, I'm going to be an apprentice to a journeyman. From a journeyman to an apprentice to a project manager to a foreman, and then hopefully own my own construction company. That was the goal.
So there was, in your mind, there was always like, I want to do big things, right? That was always there. Yeah.
There's 2 things that I learned from my hustle. I'm either going to earn it and work my ass off, or I'm going to steal it.
But I'm going to get it.
I'm going to get it. So, and I knew one didn't have longevity.
Right.
And stealing it obviously wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And I was either going to end up in prison, or it just wasn't going to happen.
What was the motivation, or what was it that like made it so intense in you to, I'm going to get it? Is it like you want to be able to provide? Is it that you came from not having a lot? Is it the lack of stability? I mean, what was it?
Everything, all that and above. You think about it. You have a poor kid that is living out of his car and had to earn everything that he's been, that I've had. My first car, I bought my own first car. I taught myself how to drive. I didn't learn how to shave until I was a senior in high school, dude. So I got to earn everything.
Right.
So for me, it was that drive. I was like, if I want that, I'm going to get it.
And it's all on you.
It's all on me. And the thing for me back then was the low riders. I wanted a low rider. I wanted this. That was just my scene.
Yeah.
But yet again, that's a different arena.
Right.
So I always figured if I want something, I got to work for it. And if I got to do that, then I got to work my ass off to get there. So I had that already projected in my head and planned out in my head that, hey, I'm going to work my ass off to get to that position.
Right.
3 years in, I figured I hated that fucking job. I give a lot of credit to construction workers.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Manual labor,
long hours,
traveling the whole 9. I always thought I was meant to do more.
Right.
And somebody at a dinner table when I was bitching about my day, because I bitched about my day a lot.
Right.
And sat me down and said, hey, you need to sell real estate. He was a real estate wig. And he was like, you're bilingual, everybody likes you, and you communicate well. Because I love to talk. I can talk to anybody.
Right.
And he said, you'd be awesome in real estate. I was like, why don't you take your courses? I was like, what is real estate? I didn't know what real estate was.
Yeah.
I knew how to build shit, but I didn't know how to, sell it.
Business,
Yeah, no way.
That. Yeah.
And he started explaining to me, it was like foreign language.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you talking?
What's an escrow?
What's that?
Yeah.
What's escrow? What's title? What's this? What's a foundation? Not foundation, I know foundation, but the terms for when it came to real estate.
Right.
And he said, you take all your online courses, this is what you got to do, go for it. And I didn't think twice of it.
Like a low barrier to entry, you don't need a college degree.
Nope.
Figure why the hell not? And he was probably successful too, right?
Oh, he was killing it, dude.
Right.
Yeah, killing it. He taught me a lot of things about business. He taught me how to understand business. He referred 2 books to me, my very first 2 books I've ever read in my life, because my ADD and dyslexic, I can't sit down and function at times. But since then, I read a lot.
How many times did it take for you to pass that exam for real estate? You tell me about this one. I want the audience to know.
I'm not stupid, okay? By no means was I stupid. I just wasn't committed.
Right.
I failed it 11 times, dude.
11 times.
11 times. But
yes,
every time I went to go take the test, I just had a 2-day binger, 3-day binger. I was drunk or high or did something. I never studied.
Yeah.
I did all my prerequisites because they're online.
Right.
But to actually sit down and study, I found that partying was more valuable than that.
yeah,
After every time, my foreman would make fun of me every time I failed. And I was like, just give it up, dude. Just keep working your ass off. He would make fun of me all
so
the time.
your coworkers in plumbing
Yeah.
and construction and all that.
They were laughing the whole time. I was a laughing stock for a while.
yeah.
And then
How old were you at this time?
Dude, I was 22, 23.
So 22, 23, okay.
And then another thing too, I had to sacrifice $75 every time to retake the test.
Right, yeah.
So I'm like, fucking
I'm
just
almost
blew-
$1,000 in the hole.
Yeah, like, dude. After the 9th time, I said I was gonna study, never happened. After the 10th time, okay, I'm gonna do it this time, that happened. The 11th time, I got the news when I was at a job site, and by this I was already a journeyman. Okay,
Right.
so I passed the labor aspect. Now I was putting shit together,
moving your way up a little
running, reading blueprints and whatnot. Right, my foreman hated my guts because I was moving up, and he figured I was gonna either give him some competition, something was gonna happen.
Right,
So
it's
he
a little
would-
bit of ego tension.
yes. So that day, he's like, here, gave me a shovel. I was like, I need you to dig this whole thing. I was like, dude, you got guys that you pay $9 an hour. Why don't you give them those guys? I'll do it, but dude,
Yeah.
you're wasting $16 an hour over 9. What's the
Why?
purpose of it? I haven't dug a trench in a year and a half. And I was like, get on it. No questions asked. And you're gonna do this the whole week. I was like, what did I do for you?
Yeah.
So at that point, I got super pissed off. And I got the news that same day, and I was fucking mad, dude.
News that you passed your real estate or failed the real estate?
Failed.
Failed the 11th time.
The 11th
Yeah.
time. I got all that news in one day.
And now go dig this
and
shovel
then dig the
shit.
trench. And it took me a couple days, because at that point I was like, dude, I'm done, you know?
Right.
I'm stupid, that's what I was thinking.
Right.
But then I thought about it, it's like every time I went to go take the test, I was either hungover or recovering from a hangover, you know? And I was like, all right, this is what I'm gonna do.
Uh-huh.
And give it since 12 to about 23 now, there's not been a weekend that I didn't party, okay? I had no parents, so I partied a lot.
Right.
I'm gonna stay home for 30 days, because you can do it every 30 days, take the test.
Right.
Stay home for 30 days, I'm gonna study, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna pass this fucking test. Did exactly that. Didn't drink for 30 days. Didn't party, didn't do anything, studied every day after work, and even on lunch breaks every time. And then, shit you not, I passed the test.
What was the difference that time? You just hit a threshold where you're like, fuck this, I'm tired
That
of being in the
shovel.
same place? Ah.
Think about it.
Interesting. So that shovel was in your mind when you wanted to party or drink? Nope, I got to study.
Why is
'cause I don't
somebody
want
else
the
gonna
shovel.
control me and tell me what I'm worth? Because I felt worthless, you know?
Right.
You gotta earn your keep, I get it, but I've earned my keep. I did 2 years of apprentice. I dug a bunch of trenches,
Right.
no questions asked. But by that time, I've already moved up, and because of somebody's ego put me in that position.
Yeah.
Yet
Wow.
again, sink or swim.
So that shovel became the anchor of why you have to go all in.
100%.
Yeah.
And
So
I
you-
never gave up.
So you get the license, and then you start practicing right away. You start killing it. I mean, walk us through your first year
So
in real
yet
estate.
again, I didn't know what a suit was. I didn't. My communication skills were good, but they weren't like my dialogue wasn't proper.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I still slang a little bit. You just
Right.
hood talk a little bit. I felt very uncomfortable in the office setting. You know, it just didn't feel like I belonged.
Right.
So for me, I was like, I started reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I started reading Think and Grow Rich. And with those two books, I was like, dude, where's my spot that everybody feels like friends and family to me?
Right.
And it's always been the gym. So I trained out of the commercial gym. Instead of showing up in my construction work and cleaning up there to get my workout in, I would go at the porta potties at the site,
Yeah.
change there, do a little wipes, change there,
Yeah.
polish up. And every time I walked into the gym, I looked like I was there to training. And everybody knew me there. They didn't know what I did, but they knew me there because they
Right.
would always ask me about fitness, what I eat, what I do. You know, at that point, I was already in shape. I lost all the weight.
Yeah, so you've always been in shape, right? And I think talk a little bit too about how, like, no matter all the challenges you went through, fitness stayed constant, right?
Oh, 100%.
It wasn't like, oh, I'm depressed, man. You know, forget working out for a week or a month or whatever. It was consistent throughout the whole
100%.
time.
If it wasn't for fitness, dude, I wouldn't be here today. Like,
Yeah.
it kept me out of completely going to the dark side. It kept me on that gray threshold. You know, I get into shape. Okay, no more drinking, no more partying as much. Okay, binge a little bit, come back. You know, so it's always been there to keep me safe.
Gotcha,
You know,
yeah.
it was like my outlet. It's what I felt
did your
good
pops
at.
work out?
No, I just love sports, dude.
You just picked it up from wrestling and then
Wrestling,
kind of just
yeah.
stayed with it the whole time
Stay
through
with
the ups
me.
and downs.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so then you get into real estate, you start going to the gyms, and then once you start going there, what happens?
So I started going there because I felt comfortable. So
Right.
when people would ask me, how do you stay so in shape? I would be like, well, this is comfortable for me, right? So I was
Right.
like, well, dude, I eat right, I prep my own food, and my job allows me to create my time.
Right.
What do you mean? What do you do? Oh, I sell real estate. Here's my card.
You set it up and spike, yeah.
Yep, that's it. But then I would leave it at that. And then that's it. So next time the question was still about fitness. Then it ended up becoming, oh, yeah, what's the real estate market doing? Oh, what's my house worth? What's this? What's going on? So I would bring that. And it broke that ice that it became a common interest, that we had fitness as a common interest. Now they feel very comfortable with me. They're going to use me for real estate.
Gotcha, yeah, you've already built rapport and you're sort of planting seeds, giving them
100%.
value, and then
Yep.
building that trust. So you essentially were sort of, instead of prospecting where you weren't comfortable
Yep.
door to door over the phones, you're going to the gym to prospect.
100%.
And you start closing deals in the gym?
6 months, I get 2 deals in the same month. One's a purchase and one's a listing.
Wow.
And
What were those checks, if you don't mind me asking? Do you remember?
So when I get into it, right, yet again, real estate somewhat foreign, I'm learning.
Right.
One was 3%, the other one was 2.75% of the purchase price or the list price. I was so zoned in, because their horror story is only, it's don't count your chickens before they hatch,
Before it's
right?
hatched, right.
So I was so zoned to close those transactions. Dude, I had a piece of shit car for like the purchase. I had a piece of shit car. Every time I made a right turn, it would open up. So I had to bungee that thing down to the seatbelt for it wouldn't open. It was a
Right.
93 BMW, and it was supposed to be blue, but it looked purple. It was like it cost me $1,000, dude.
Yeah.
Or in the mornings I would wake up, an extra half hour early because I didn't have money to change out the fan belts, and
Right.
it would squeal really loud when you stopped at a stop sign. So I figured out if you put soap on it, it takes the wax and it kind of lubes it up.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it lasts all day and that'll be good.
Yeah, you
So-
got creative with it, resourceful, yeah.
Resourceful. So what I did, I would go to Enterprise, I would rent a car and show property, So I was so focused on not losing these transactions
Right.
that I really didn't pay attention to the commissions. Honest truth, dude.
Yeah.
And by the time, and yet again, I'm learning. So every question that they had, if I didn't have the answer, I researched the shit out of it. I asked my broker, I did this. I'd make sure I give them the proper answer back.
Right.
But I never told them, hey, dude, I don't know. I would always say to them, yo, look it's an ever-changing market, which it really is. And some of the questions did have to do with some of the changes in new laws, regulations, and stuff of that nature.
Right.
And I was like, look, let me research it and get back to you.
Right.
And exactly what I did. I researched and get back to them. So I was so focused on closing everything out that by the time they closed it 3 days apart from each other. I remember. And by the time escrow cuts the checks to my broker gets the checks, deposited them, he calls me into his office about almost a week after. And he says, and this is back, 15 years ago.
Right.
So he was like, hey, your checks are ready. I was like, oh, hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Gives me my closing statements and they're in an envelope. I walk out. I said, thanks, bro. I was like, you should be really proud, he tells me, my broker. And I was like, oh, thanks, dude. Not thinking anything of it. I opened it and I opened the checks and I was like, holy shit, bro. It was so real. Like even to this day, it gets me like crazy. So my 2 checks was equivalent to 1 year's pay as a plumber, dude. I made $62,000. This was in the hay market when the pricing was up on everything.
Right.
62,000, 3%, 2 to 7%. One was almost $1.2 million, and the other one was like this was like $1.5 million land deal. And I was like, fuck. And I'm already thinking, what am I gonna buy? What am I gonna do? All this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm banking with Wells Fargo, and I send it, and I go in there. The teller looks at the checks, stamps them. I didn't have a business account.
Right.
It was all under my personal name, and
And you've never had money like that in your account?
never,
ever,
bro,
yeah.
ever, dude. I was like, fuck yeah, dude, time to party. Where's
Yeah.
Vegas?
Yeah, you're already thinking about how to spend it.
Yeah, dude. And so I deposited, and they put a 10-day hold on them.
Oh,
Because
God.
I never had that much money in my account. Plus,
Right.
they wanted to make sure they cleared, so put a 10-day hold on it.
Longest 10 days of your life, I'm sure.
Longest, but the most rewarding in a sense of getting my mind right. I got this adrenaline high that I'm banking. I think I'm rich,
Right.
And I was like, shit, dude. I was still working as a plumber, working real estate part-time in the evenings, weekends. I hustled my ass off for 6 months to get that happen. Actually, about 7 months, 8 months. And by the time it was closed, those 10 days, I was evaluating my life the whole time. I was like,
Right.
what car am I gonna buy? What am I gonna do? What am I gonna say? I was thinking of everything I had.
Do I really want to be a plumber? Should I
Yeah.
quit? Yeah. man, I really like this real estate thing.
Dude, everybody was wearing True Religions. I wanted True Religions, $300 a pop. Dude, I got it, bro.
Yeah, no, I'll still have 61,700.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
So in that transition, I'm still going to work and I'm still shoveling things, he's pointing out things for me to do. And at that point I was like, you know what? I'm done, dude. I finished Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It gave me a completely different mindset. I was on to Think and Grow Rich, completely different approach of business.
Phenomenal books, yeah.
Best books. I'm glad they referred those books to me as my 2 first books, because from there it's been on.
Would you recommend to people out there listening who might be in their own
dude,
struggles to read those too?
100%. You'll take things out of there that you don't know. I've reread those books probably 2 or 3 times. Okay. And I always get something new from them, to be honest with you.
And it depends where you're at in life.
100%.
Maybe something pokes out at you or applies to a new situation in a new way or whatever, yeah.
So by the 9th day, I already kind of had my mindset that I was going to quit. And I knew reading those books, if I have a crutch, I have an outlet to go to something else, right? If I gave them 2 weeks, they would accept me back, because I was a good worker.
Right.
And so I called my foreman the next morning once I saw the money cleared, and I said, hey, yo, I'm not coming in today. What do you mean? You sick? You all right? I was like, nah, I quit, bro. And he starts laughing. And I was like, what, you doing the real estate thing? I was like, yeah, I'm doing the real estate thing. He starts laughing again. I was like, bro, get your ass over here. You're not gonna get your job back if you don't put in at least 2 weeks. And I was like, you know what, go fuck off.
Yeah.
And I just hung up on him.
Wow.
That was the best feeling ever, dude.
Wow, man.
Best feeling ever. And I hung up, and then I started stressing out, freaking out. I was like, I just fucked up. I just ruined my life.
Oh, what did I just do?
Yeah. And but then I calmed down. I had enough money to hold me over. I didn't go crazy spending it, which was good, because it gave me that time knowing that I was going to quit.
Right.
But then,
and how old are you right here?
I was 24 by then. 23, 24. And dude, my first year in real estate, I made $125,000.
Nice.
Nice, but bad at the same time, because I wasn't incorporated. So, dude, I didn't know about taxes. I didn't know about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, I had a $32,000 tax bill.
Yeah.
Sucked.
That you didn't find out about till you owed it.
But I incorporated the next day, So, because I knew I was going to do that well. And the other aspect. And
most of your clients, I do want to ask, because I think a lot of people would be fascinated to know, because a lot of people start real estate, they struggle, or any profession, they start to struggle. How important is it to find an angle to find clients, right? Like, because I know you, like a lot of people would say, oh, I tried to cold call or door knock, but it didn't work for me. You never did that, right?
Well, the thing is like, I love meeting people,
right?
So it's find out what that strength is and make it that happen. Apply what you already know, but put it in a different industry, right? For me was like, okay, how is somebody going to trust me with a $500 to $1 million purchase over the phone,
right?
And I wasn't like a smooth talker. It's like, there's no way,
Right.
So if I got in front of people and they got to know me, that was my strength.
Right.
I can make anything happen at that point, especially if I give them educated answers back,
Right.
So that's, taking that strength and applying it in a comfortable position in the sense of the gym, because I already knew it, and these people already knew me and I already know them.
Right.
So it worked out,
So you found an angle and capitalized on it.
100%.
And I think that's a big lesson for people out there to listen, like whatever market or whatever endeavor they're in. Like, who says you have to like go through the traditional routes? Like, maybe find your angle and leverage that. Maybe that'll be your strong point.
100%, dude.
So then from real estate, then we get into, what we have now is self-made. Talk a little bit about the transition and the addition, I guess, because you juggle a lot of stuff and you do it really well. Talk about when personal training came into the mix and sort of the seed that built this beautiful place and 16 others.
Yeah, so we'll fast forward real quick so we don't spend hours and hours on this, but it's one of those things where did really well in real estate.
Right.
100%, killed it, got up to, to the point where I opened up my own brokerage and I went really big in one big location.
Right.
And I was telling you that story earlier. It
Right.
was really, really big in one location. Started off small and then worked my way up, and then I ended up having X amount of agents, had lending, everything under one roof. Market shifted on me. I had a new person come in. They offered 100% commissions. I lost a lot of my top producers. Couldn't reinvent the wheel. Couldn't make it happen.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to file bankruptcy in 2012.
Yeah.
Learned 100%. I mean, humbled me and learned so much, because you got to think about it. A kid that has never had anything. I'm on top of the fucking world. I'm on cloud 9.
Yeah.
And no one can beat me. I'm a stud at real estate, is what I would think. 1 year, I sold 98 homes in 1 year, dude.
Wow.
That's the first year I ever made $1 million. That was in 2009.
So walk me through the income levels. So you said first year 125. How did it
It kept scaling up. Second year was 225. Third year was 300. Fourth year was about 450. And then the other, by the fifth and sixth year, it was 800 to a million.
Wow.
You know, and by then I had a full staff. I had my own brokerage, Realty World and Associates. Went really big. Started doing lending. I got into lending as well, so that was another channel of revenue as well.
Right.
And I was killing it. And then, like yet again, a shift happened that I wasn't prepared because I was such blinded in my ego that all my agents left. And I won't blame them. I blame myself. I provided an outlet for them to find something better when I could have been improving my systems instead of worrying about just my production and so on.
Gotcha. And the challenge was that the other brokerage opened up and they were like no commission, right?
Yep. 100% commission, flat rate, the whole nine.
So all the agents want to go there, and they're your whole empire and your overhead now
done,
collapses.
So my wife tells me, don't love nothing that doesn't love you back. So decided to file bankruptcy.
I love that. Don't love anything that doesn't love you back. I love that.
You know, and smart woman, dude. And I'll get to her next. And got into the bankruptcy. Yet again, I already had some rental properties that I owned, and I was like, my main thing was to protect my investments that I've already accumulated over time.
Right.
I was so embarrassed.
How old are you at the bankruptcy?
Oh shoot, 2012. I'm 36 now. I was probably 30.
Wow.
Yeah, 29, 30.
That wasn't even that long ago then.
No, 2012 is not too long ago.
Wow.
Man. And I hired an attorney from online because I was so embarrassed to ask for referrals or anything like that. I'd never filed bankruptcy before, yet again, being ignorant. This guy tells me that, my rental properties will be protected and all you have to do is file through the corporation of the real estate and maybe some of your personal assets. So we did all that, got to the attorney, to the judge, and come to find out, they attacked my LLC. So I ended up having to give up some rental properties, and they collected almost close to $1 million in equity.
Yeah.
But luckily, 2012 wasn't the peak of the market, so I was able to keep some of my other real estate properties, which has now tripled in amounts, you know. But out of that, humbled ourselves. This was December of 2012. By 2013, I told myself this will never happen again, and started thinking of rebuilding my real estate business and just being self-sufficient alone. I wasn't planning, this wasn't even in the picture. But my wife, to help the household, to generate our income back to what we were used to, she started personal training out of our gym. She's been a personal trainer for a while already. So I found my buddy was selling all his gym equipment for $5,000, and I had $5,000. So I was like, cool, build it, put it up for her. She did that for about 8 months, and she killed it. And self-made fitness. She was developing her own personal training. She was independent, doing everything on her own. But I hated people keep coming in my house. Not because I hated the people. It was just random people just coming through our house. So I finally told her, hey babe, sell everything. Let's sell everything. Let's get you to go work at a corporate gym or work at a studio. She went to the corporate gyms. By no means, dude. They devalue the hell out of the craft of personal training. They put you in a box. They don't care about the training aspect and the personal development. They care more about the numbers and make sales, okay? So that wasn't her jive. And then she ended up going to a couple private studios. Some of them had half-assed equipment, didn't have everything we needed. And then some of them were charging still membership, doing large boot camps.
Right.
Finally, she comes home, she was like, just give me my gym back. By then, I already sold everything,
Right.
And I was like, no, babe, here, try this one place. And we Googled a place that we found, find this one place. They're hiring, it says they're hiring, looks like a good little gym. She went there, talked to the owner, and they belittled the shit out of her, dude. She came back, I was on my lunch break from real estate. She came back home crying and tells me the story, and I'm over here like, I want to beat the living shit out of these guys. And instead of that,
they just didn't give her value, or
no value, dude. They devalued her craft. They told her she couldn't carry her name, that she was competition, that she has to be all them or none, and so that wasn't happening, you know. And the owner was a competitor, so I was a competitor, so they kind of just didn't clash. Yeah. And so I got so pissed off. I was like, fuck it, we'll build you a gym. We'll build you your own little private studio. It'll be outside of the house. Find this type of commercial at this dollar per square foot, and I'll make it happen, babe. And I budgeted about $75,000 for that. And shit you not, she found it. And she found it directly right across the facility that told her no and belittled her,
Oh, yeah, big F you to them.
Oh, big time, dude. And so for us, we're like, all right, cool. We go into it thinking it was a private studio, and I was like, dude, how many trainers just like my wife need a home to build a career out of? Without the micromanagement, without the limitations, and really build a career based on what they're good at. And not have any membership, nothing. So we started creating this thing, and then that's how we came up with Self-Made Training Facility. But the first location in Marietta is 3,900 square feet. I budgeted 75,000, not knowing anything about equipment, not knowing anything about the build outs.
Right.
Our credit was jacked up, so we had to put 3 times the amount of the deposit. So that deposit was a little over 20 grand. So now that took, down to 50, 55,000.
Yeah, a big chunk of that 75 budget. Yeah.
By the time we got to our floors and mirrors, we're about down to our last 8 grand. And I was like,
So much for the budget. Yeah. Wow.
I was able to keep a couple of my classic cars, and I had a badass Road King, Harley Davidson Road King, custom house, featured in Hot Bikes magazine. I sold that right away. And then I had a beautiful 1970 Suburban, original 3-door, completely rare, slammed. All my stuff's white and black details.
And you customized it yourself,
I customized it from the ground up.
Wow.
And that was one of my prized possessions. And I said, you know what? Fuck it. Sold that for pennies on the dollar. Sold it for 40 grand, worth 60 or more.
Yeah.
Just got rid of it. So we ended up getting enough capital to put the gym
So you
together.
guys went all in on the gym.
This was life savings, dude.
So you literally had no reserves.
No loans, no reserves. I was hustling real estate. Every real estate transaction I closed went to the gym.
Wow.
Paid our overhead, went to the gym. Paid our overhead, went to the gym. I did that for a long time.
So this had to work.
It had to work. There's there's this pivotal moment where I was losing my shit, and I tell my wife, I was like, this better effing work.
Right.
And she looked at me and she was like, dude, my wife was mopping floors. Like, we had no help, no employees. It was just me and her,
How'd you guys meet?
She used to, we met at a club when I was about 18 or 19. We connected, but we never did anything. And she went on her way and I went on mine. And then we reconnected when I moved to Temecula. I had a Harley Davidson then, and it was all custom out too. And they wanted to use it for a calendar. And she's a promo model. But she was also in lending, and she is also a bartender. She's a hustler herself. She's had like every job you can think of.
So you guys connected on that mutual grounds.
Yeah, and then we've been inseparable since that calendar day. So
That's
we're
awesome,
attached to the hip.
So she's been with you through the roller coaster
Dude,
ride.
That's one thing. She knew me when I was poor, and this was before real estate even took off. And she's been with me through good, bad, and everything, dude.
What's the best part about her impact on you in the relationship?
She taught me what love was, what is love, like true love, unconditional love, even through the bad shit. And never had that once in my life.
Wow.
Not
That's
once, not
amazing.
even from a parent.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
And then, so you guys come together, start the first facility.
Yep.
And talk to me a little bit about what's unique about your business model, because it is freaking amazing. And I think that's why you guys are taking the industry by storm. Talk a little bit about the uniqueness of the business model.
The uniqueness that sets us apart, we charge absolutely no memberships. All our trainers are independent contractors. They run their own facility. They run their own business in our facility. And they can carry their own name. They market with us. We co-market with them. We give them tools and systems to be successful, not only one-on-one, but online as well. So we create an online nutrition platform for them, an online training platform, and their one-on-one training platform. So it allows them to be successful not only here, but also virtually.
So basically, the personal trainers pay you guys a membership, and they can bring in all of their clients for free. There's no charge for that. And then they keep 100% of the money that they earn
100%.
from their personal training clients.
100%. Yeah,
Wow.
and we have an accredited certification course that they can take. We also have an entrepreneurship courses that they take that we developed based on our model. So we teach them accounting, marketing, retention, communications. We teach them everything, how to run an efficient business under a house. Because look, we're recruiting personal trainers that work at corporate gyms.
Right.
So since they're working at corporate gyms, they're like an employee mindset. They're not independent contractors
They're
at
not
that
used
point.
to being owners in a sense, right? If
So we
anything-
teach them how to do that.
Yeah, if anything, they're used to hiding, right?
Correct.
Because it's taboo now. You go to 24 LA Fitness, you got to be low key that you're a
Yep.
trainer because they want you to sign up with the actual gym's training.
Yep.
So you're solving a huge problem in that niche market.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
So we took it to a whole nother level, and we're constantly trying to perfect it. There's no way that we'll ever be perfect, so we're constantly evolving.
Right.
We're 5 steps ahead of everybody else that's trying to mimic us right now, or even copy us.
That's incredible. And you guys are at 17 locations now?
17 locations, yep.
Wow.
So started off in Marietta,
Yeah.
and then yet again, instead of going real big like I did with my real estate office, I was like, hey, let me see if this works somewhere else. I'm from Riverside, went to Corona, killed in Corona, went to Costa, killed in Costa. That's like a true testament that this would work anywhere in the state,
Right.
and made it happen.
And your first location was profitable month one, or?
Month one. We were
Wow.
fully staffed within 90 days.
That's incredible.
You
And
know?
most of the marketing was done online, right?
Online.
Instagram, social media.
We've built a multi-million-dollar business on Instagram. No, Instagram and Facebook.
How did you guys market to begin with? What were some strategies or insights that you could impart to the audience?
I took ego out of it. Instead of saying, hey, this is Miguel's gym or this is Autumn's gym, this is self-made. You could be self-made, and it doesn't have nothing to do with money. It's self-made as an individual taking actions behind the thought and the idea, right? They want to be successful, we're going to teach them how to be successful. And at that point, we created a community and a retention so high that people can't compete with. So for us, is the value is the trainer. So for us, they're coming to us and loving every bit of it.
And you guys also have nutritionists in-house.
We have 26 dietitians that work and develop our software. We have our training app that helps them train people online. That we also have the accredited certification courses that teaches them how to develop different skills. If I can diversify one trainer to do 5 different things in the same industry, they'll never be slow. Powerlifting, great, I got you. Weightlifting, great, I got you. Bodybuilding, great, I got you. Weight management, good, I got you. The question is, my trainers can do anything of what they're willing to put in the work for.
That's amazing, dude. Were there any struggles when it came to getting personal trainers, or was it pretty easy? Was it pretty organic growth?
It was organic.
Really?
Yeah, because the value is there, and we took, we took us out of the picture and we focused on them. If you go to our Instagram, which is Self-Made Training Facility, our main corporate headquarters, it's all about them.
And then you have them promoting it to their students, and then it just so on
it's a
and
cycle,
so forth.
Dude.
Yeah.
Instead of spending a $20,000 budget on marketing, we have no real marketing budget if you think about it, because I have, say Temecula, we have 50 personal trainers in Temecula. I have 50 people tagging this place on a daily basis. Those 50 people have an average of 10 athletes that are tagging our place, that they're getting success out of our facilities, that they're excited to be here. We get so many requests to be a membership gym because they keep wanting to come back, but we'll never do it because we never want to devalue the craft.
Yeah, so and the fact that your wife was in personal training, you have a pulse on it, you have a sensitivity to it. You didn't just start a gym to make money.
No.
You started a training facility because you understand the market. You know what they're dealing with. You know what they wish was the case, and so you built it around that.
Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, I try to perfect it.
I love that, yeah.
That's it, dude.
Yeah.
I build things from the ground up, right? And this model has been around, but they never try to perfect it. They never add systems. Anybody can put a gym together.
Right.
Anybody can, right? But no one can build a community the way we've done it. No one can develop the tools and the systems to have the investment be the person, not the tangible product. I'm investing in people. I'm investing in other entrepreneurs to be successful. Corporate America will build you up because they get a piece of your pie, right? They'll give you a pat on the back, great sales, meet your quota, meet your quota, meet your quota, while we're getting fat and happy, right? With us, no, hey, I want you to make 100 grand. What do I get out of the 100 grand? Nothing. I get the flat rate every month, no matter what you make.
That's because you guys have built a multi-million-dollar business while increasing other people's revenue too, right?
100%.
Talk to me a little bit about the stories of trainers who've, 2 and 3x, 4x, 5x their income sometimes. Talk to me a little bit about that.
You got an average trainer from corporate gyms making between $25,000 and $40,000 a year, if that, working 60 plus hours a week.
With no respect to their craft.
No respect, nothing. It's a restaurant business. Get them in, get them out. Nothing wrong against restaurants, but I'm just saying, get them in, feed them, get them out.
Yeah, and they get a piece of the action.
100%, right? So with us, it's no, hey, let's invest in our trainers, make them super successful. We don't get a piece of that pie. We've had trainers. We had our first 6 franchises were to my trainers. They started with us making 100 plus a year, invested in a facility because they saw what we've done in 3 years, 3.5 years, 4 years.
Wow, so you're helping personal trainers that were struggling before now generate 6-figure incomes that they would never have otherwise.
100%, dude.
Yeah.
And then we have trainers that, I'll take my franchise director. He started in our Costa Mesa location, lost it all prior, okay? Had his own gym prior, lost it all. And needed a new fresh start, loved our facility, loved everything. We implemented the tools and systems. He took them to a whole nother level, applied everything we taught him. And I noticed when I was there, I would notice him getting dropped off every week. And I was like, dude, this guy doesn't have a car. So one day,
he's Ubering.
Yeah, I see them getting dropped off. He's getting the stuff out of the car, and I pretend to go walk to my truck to get something out, and I see the Uber sign. So he's been getting Ubered to the facility. Within 90 days, making 10, 12 racks a month, dude, right? To now having his own car.
Yeah.
And now having his own personal training business. And now, he just leased an apartment in Newport Beach, which is huge because that's a $3,500 payment just on an apartment,
Right, yeah. And the fact that you played a pivotal role in that, what does that feel like, man?
It's amazing, bro. I get more reward from this than I did my real estate career. Real estate got me out of the hood, per se, but it was always Yes, I get repeat business. Yes, I help somebody get in a house, and it's a big commitment. It's a big financial commitment. But it doesn't save their life or really improve it, dramatically. And though it's a great investment, don't get me wrong. But here we're saving people's lives. Like directly saving somebody's life through health and fitness or improving their life through health and fitness.
So it's fulfilling.
Oh, 100%.
Dang. And you've seen transformations, I'm sure, happen.
Yep.
Let's get into the business element of it. What have you found to be the best pieces of wisdom? I'm sure you bumped into the walls a bunch. I mean, we've heard your story.
Yep.
What would be your best insight, advice to people out there that maybe want to start their own business? Maybe they're in a hard place. Maybe they're living in their car right now. And they really want to start that thing or start that business, get it off the ground. Well, what have you learned? What's Miguel's best insight over the last 36 years that you would impart to them?
It's going to sound stupid, but just taking action. It's real simple.
Yeah.
You have to take action. You can't sit back and have the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens?
Right.
Fuck it all. You're gonna fall on your face.
Right.
It's proven that every entrepreneur falls on their face. You'll never see it, but you know what I mean?
Right,
They fall on their face.
Yeah.
Get back up and do it again. Strategically do proper actions to get to the end goal. We did this and we hit many roadblocks. Now we're in the point where we're still hitting roadblocks.
Right.
Scaling is a whole different aspect.
Right.
Out of the country, out of the state. Not never doing it ever in my lifetime, but now I got the proper team yet again,
And you guys just started Self-Made actually in 2014, right?
2014 was our first location.
So 4 years in and you guys have already built a multi-million-dollar business, helped trainers generate 6 figures in income, and helped hundreds, if not thousands of people get in the best shape of their lives.
100%.
Wow.
This is a company that's invested in people, dude.
Yeah. Wow. And what's fascinates me too is the fact that if you notice in your story early on with the real estate, is that you essentially had that empire crumble because you were getting a piece of your realtor's transactions. And so from that, like wrestling, you learned to pivot out of that, make a counter move, a strategic move, and said, okay, my next endeavor with fitness, I'm not going to take anybody's piece of the action.
Correct.
We're just going to rent them space.
Yep.
Wow. So you turned that negative into a positive.
Basically,
in that
I
way.
took that model, real estate, the guy that took my business or gave him an option to leave, and I said, hey, we can do the same thing in the fitness industry, but it sparked because of my wife. Because she was belittled and she was put in a situation where she had nowhere else to go.
And that became the new shovel, maybe.
100%.
That new motivating factor.
Yeah, dude. For me, there's no such things as like a true setback. It's a learning experience. What's my counter move? How do I get out of this one, or how do I improve it? You perfect something like in wrestling. I had an awesome fireman's carry. I perfected that move. No matter what, I can get it on anybody. You do the same thing in business. No matter what, you can get it done. And it just takes that practice over and over and over.
What if there's entrepreneurs or people listening or watching that they don't know what to do? Maybe they're stuck and think, well, I don't know what business I want to do, or I don't know what my passion is, or I don't know what would be fulfilling work to me. I mean, I know you say action's important, but what if they don't know what actions to take? What advice would you give people about that?
Put it this way: take every position that you possibly can. Don't jump. In other words, don't be that entrepreneur or that person that jumps from career to career to career to career. I get that, but since I was able to work, the day I got my first job, which I was selling women's clothing at Contempo, this was prior to Graveyard.
Right.
Okay, women's clothing at Contempo at 16. That got me out of my shell to be able to talk to people.
Right.
Because I had to talk to females. 16 years old, puberty, dude, I was going, you're freaking out. That gave me my real estate career. Every job that I've ever had has set me up for the next thing. So don't look at your job or your current situation as, I'm stuck doing this forever. Whatever you're doing right now is gonna teach you something for your next position when it provides that opportunity. You see an opportunity, take it. If it's improving, like if you're scaling from one position, if you're going from $10 to $12, take it. You're going from 12 to 14 an hour, take it. Because you're gonna learn something in every one of those positions.
Right.
Same thing if you go from an actual employee to management, take it, because you're gonna learn some skills out of that.
Yeah.
They don't teach this shit in college, dude.
Right, yeah, and you're never gonna be ready, right?
No.
You gotta take the actions before. You weren't prepared to start the gym, you weren't prepared to do the real estate deal, but you put yourself in the fire, you walk through it, and you bump into the walls, and you figure it out.
100%.
That's how, like muscle, right?
Yeah.
Like you tear the muscle,
you tear it down and
build
build
it
right back up, dude.
Fascinating, man. Now, when it comes to you looking back, right?
Yeah.
To that young man, that young Miguel that was 16 years old, living in his car, unsure about his life, maybe even suicidal, seeing the beautiful amount of detail you built into this awesome business and company that you built. What would the Miguel today say to that young 16-year-old who was looking for answers?
That's a tough one. I'll always never give up, right? It's never, look, if you're alive, you're somewhat healthy, and your mind's right where you can think, don't give up. Because those are enough tools to be able to get out of that hole. You know, when I was in my car, times that I was crying, and you know, I would never cry because of why me. I would be crying because of this shitty situation, but then I would laugh and say, look, watch what happens next. I knew I was going to do something.
Right.
I knew for a fact I was going to do something. God always had something planned out for me. You know, He kept me away from overdosing. He kept me away from going to prison. He kept me away from joining the gang even further in, deep into that whole lifestyle.
Right.
You know, and He kept me away in the transition of this. You know, all the stuff that I would tell myself then is just to keep fighting the fight. The people that fold is you'll never get a reaction out of that.
Yeah.
You fold, that's it.
And you can't control when things pop. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, just keep going.
Keep going.
And it will work out. You'll figure it out along the way.
Man, if I had 5 hours with you, you know, I tell you every setback and every way we came out of it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And that 16-year-old, if he could see you up in your office running this multi-million-dollar company, what would he say to you now? Would he have believed it?
He would believe it. You know, the purpose of this whole, me coming out of my shell and being able to really expose the darker sides of my life is for that specific reason. I wish I had somebody like me that would mentor me at that age, or at least I can follow and see, and through social media, because we didn't have it back then.
Right, yeah.
You have that capability. You have these kids that follow us, these youth, these young adults, even older adults. You have them follow us, right? And what's really different now than it is back then is everything back then had to be polished up. If you're in the business world, you're in a suit, tie, that's what you do, right?
Right.
Now you have entrepreneurs that are super tatted, all walks of life, any ethnic background, and they're crushing it. And guess what? We relate with that. You know, kids from where I'm from Riverside, one of the probably worst parts of Riverside, to be able to do what I do now, imagine how impactful that is. And indirectly too, because I don't know if it's working or not. But the amount of DMs I get and things that I've done so far, it's 100% doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
You know, I would listen to me at 16. Why? Because, dude, not only does he have cool stuff, but I'm a good family man. You know, I'm a good father. I'm a good business person. I don't know it all, which I told you earlier. I'm a student of life, dude. I'm constantly learning.
Right.
And I'm still going to fall on my face. I'm going to make some mistakes, but at least I'll own up to them and make them happen. So that 16-year-old would be a lot more impressionable with our lifestyle now, knowing that it's possible, because I could be just like him. You know, or my situations could be a lot worse than his current situations. And there's still light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Wow, man. Now, what about when it comes to you sort of, because I'm sure you know, a big part of what you do is mentoring youth and stuff like that, right? And a lot of people ask you, man, how do I become successful? You mentioned something earlier when you were giving us a tour about how not to chase the dollar.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it seems a little counterintuitive. How do I become a multimillionaire without chasing the dollar?
And I love money. Everybody that knows me, I love money. There's no doubt about it. It's giving me an awesome life. What I do with it is spend time with my family, travel, and do all the good stuff. And whatever I want to buy, I'll buy. Right? So that's a good feeling to have. But I noticed in my real estate career, when I was chasing the money in my brokerage, right? Giving everybody 80-20 splits, how many deals you making, giving them quotas, all that stuff, right? It failed. And I took this, invested in people, it doesn't fail so far, you know, and it's not, I don't see it ever failing, dude.
Right.
How can you fail when we're really developing somebody else, like another human being?
Right.
And guess what happens? The money comes. Because the biggest reward for me is my bragging rights. I love to brag, okay?
Yeah, I made this guy $100,000. I helped this person get in shape.
100%, dog.
Yeah.
You know, if I get that person to say, hey, look, I got this trainer over here that was Ubering to my location, killing it. We had people move from, I have a girl, same Costa Mesa location, and then I'll tell you the Corona one real quick, moved from Chicago because she was following me on Instagram, followed us here, went to Costa Mesa when we opened, crushed it, and now she's killing it as a personal trainer.
And for people wondering, How much do you guys charge in membership depending on the
It
area
depends on
location?
location.
Gotcha.
This location here in Riverside County, we're at $700. San Bernardino County, like Rancho Cucamonga, they're at $800 a person. Costa Mesa, $900 a person. So it just varies per location.
Which is totally worth it for trainers because that's paid off in
Think
one or two
about it.
clients.
You have all this for a very low overhead. But yet in return, we're not. Okay, this equipment is badass. We manufacture some of the best equiment in the industry.
Yeah, you own the equipment.
Yes,
yeah.
we own the equipment. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's the best of the best, right? It has no value to me. Okay? My trainers have the value. We instill that in them, right? So for them, we make it super affordable, give them everything they need to be successful. As long as they apply it, they will be successful. And also, I always tell every trainer, Marco can vouch for it here in Temecula. He went from corporate gym to now running his full business here. He's been with us, killing it here. And he'll hashtag it or put it in his post sometimes, don't take your foot off the gas. That's exactly what I told him when I met with him and said, hey, you're gonna have to be consistent. And once you get that fire going, keep pulling fuel on it, keep it burning, so don't take your foot off the gas. And he remembers that till this day.
Yeah.
Because it really, you're an entrepreneur. There's no 9 to 5, dude.
Yeah, no one's going to pay you.
No one's
got
gonna
to earn
pay you.
it.
No one's gonna tell you you gotta wake up at 6 in the morning. No one's gonna
Right.
tell you have to be here. You don't have to do this. You have to market this. You don't have to do this. You have to do it on your own. But we give them the tools and systems. We provide them a platform and a foundation.
And then when it comes to you managing everything, I do want to ask, because in closing, everyone's going to wonder, man, you're like, that's awesome, but how does he manage that? I can't do that. How important is structuring your day? I mean, do you have a daily routine? What's your best advice for managing it all, man?
Man, that's probably one of the toughest questions I get asked all the time, dude.
Yeah.
Like every time I get asked, and it's always like,
Because you
well,
got
how do I
real
answer
estate.
that? I
Yeah,
got
you got
real estate, I got the franchises, I got the equipment sales, I got the training facilities. I got my real estate investments that I still was able to keep some of them.
Right. And your own personal life issues,
personal life,
family,
everything.
kids. Yeah.
I wake up every day and I'm real big. I talk a lot about time. I wake up and I have something to do every hour of the hour. I program it to that way so I'm able to balance everything out. And also I made myself a regimen where I'm home by 7 o'clock at least Monday through Friday. So I still spend time with my kids. I don't miss any of my kids' soccer events. I build an awesome team from my chief operating officer, Dean, to my wife helping us with the back end stuff and helping us with the facility and the marketing, to Charlene doing all our bookkeeping and whatnot, and then having Maxwell do our franchise director. So I have a team and they take on a lot. So it allows me to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because the more we can share with the world of exactly what we do, the more people I can reach and impact. The main thing is impacting. If we can impact as many people. So I wake up every day knowing that I have a purpose in my life. For once, because I have clarity. The 3 years sobriety has given me a lot of clarity. This all happened because of that. Like it has a lot to do with it because yet again, I can think properly. I can make decisions happen and be completely clear of any toxins in my body. Every time I failed is because I was always either recovering from something or just doing something. So I got the point the last time I did it,
Yeah. Wow, man. So before we wrap up, because I think we've got a full grasp of the story.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, we always play a game called First Things First.
Okay.
And the way the game works is I'm going to list off 10 words or phrases, and then you just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so first word, self-made.
Action.
Your wife.
Loving.
Your kids.
Amazing.
Your past.
Learning.
Money.
Management.
The tough times.
Rewards.
Your future.
Never ending.
Money.
A tool.
Passion.
From the heart.
And then your last one, you ready? Your legacy.
Impact.
Yeah, I love that, my man.
Yeah.
Beautiful, and certainly impacted a lot of people in the process. Any final words or words of wisdom to people out there that might look up to you and aspire to be like you and sort of dream of having built what you've built in that fulfilling a way in their niche? What would be Miguel's final piece of wisdom? If someone said, Miguel, give me the 60 seconds, your best stuff, what would you say?
And I'm going to quote somebody that I respect, and Joe Rogan, right? He says, be the hero to your own story. So true, bro. I took that very young. I'm the hero to my own story. I write my own story. I create my path. You know, and with that, anybody, just be the hero of your own story, man. You're the Superman. You're everything you want to be. You just got to apply that. And you have that mindset. It doesn't matter where you start from, no matter how much you have, how much you don't have. You're the hero to your own story.
Oh, man. I love that. Thanks so much for sharing your story, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
That's a wrap, guys. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. We'll see you guys next time. As always, live with passion. If you guys enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you the very best in personal development content, interviews, and insight to help inspire you to take your life and your dreams and make them a reality. And also, if you want to know how to book dream guests the same way I have, you can check the link below for my top 3 secrets. So if you have a podcast or a show or whatever it is and you want to collaborate with them, if you click that link below, I'll give you those top 3 secrets to help you get in touch with anybody. And also, don't forget that The Passionate Few is available on media platforms as well. So you can subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, thank you for being one of the passionate few.